is the very best day there has ever been to be in the floor covering business.
On the Floor with John Weller.
For those of you who don't know, my name is Jason Goldberg. I own a company in Columbus, Ohio called America's Floor Source. We're about a $90 million flooring company. I started that company 18 years ago. I'm third generation, and I run a fairly successful flooring business. So a couple years ago, I didn't like the way we were handling our retail sales leads. I didn't know a lot about them. We were managing with pen and paper, the way that most flooring companies still manage their leads today. I looked across the marketplace at various tools that could solve the problem, a bunch of different CRMs, but they were either too clunky, too difficult to use, too expensive, a combination of the three, or just built to work for a bunch of different things, but not specific enough for what I was trying to accomplish. So after looking at all those, I came to the conclusion, look, if I want to get what I want and what we need in the flooring industry, I'm going to have to program it myself. So I have a guy who owns a tech company who used to be my chief technology officer. I had dinner with him one night. I told him the challenge, and I diagrammed this thing out already. So I said, here's what I need to build. And I just gave it to him. He said, I can build that for you. The intent was to build a very nice, very functional lead management software for America's Floor Source. But what ended up happening is he built the tool and we started using it, and I was like, holy cow, this thing is awesome. After about 6 months, I said, we are separating this off. We're making this into a separate company. This is needed in the flooring business. I solved all three of those initial challenges. One, it was extremely easy to use. Two, it was not clunky at all. And three, we were able to get it down to a price point that any retailer could afford. So it was just by accident I got into the software business. Now, that being said, I'm a pretty tech-savvy person. As a 4.0 student in school, we've built some other softwares for my flooring company. We built our own custom scheduling and field management software. We've built an analyzation software to analyze our numbers. So having to do things like this was not uncommon, but it's different when you're building a piece of software to work within your own company. We're building a technology company. Now, as a guy who's built companies before, that's the natural, right? I mean, building a company up and all those things that go along with it and the strategy behind it and what you need to get done, that's right up my alley. So I understand the segment. I'm a third generation flooring person. I understand technology. I can't code it, but I can certainly describe it, and I understand it well enough to get down the path of where we need to go. Specifically how we did it, I'm the owner of the company, of a $90 million flooring company. I have a whole layer of managers. I took it upon myself to look at every lead, because I get a notification on every lead that comes in the system, because I have those notifications turned on for me. I picked up the phone, I called every person who put in one of those leads, not the customer, but my salesperson. I would say, hey John, great job on putting the Jane Doe lead in. I would give them a compliment, and then I'd say, by the way, and then I would give them the corrective action. Next time you talk to Jane, ask her how she heard about us. And that should be part of your process. When you're talking to a customer, build that in. Hey Jane, how'd you hear about us? And then make sure that gets in the system. Then I'd explain to them why that was important. You get that data on a manual lead, because on a digital lead, we're going to capture that data hopefully automatically. Then you're going to give me data that I'm going to analyze through the system that's going to allow me to market better, which is going to drive more leads into the system, which overall is going to make you more money. And that's where I always tie it back to. The second thing we do when we're training is if I've got a salesperson who's put 20 leads into the system and they're working those leads, I will purposely go through those leads. I will find the one that I believe is going sideways, right? He's going to lose that deal or she's going to lose that deal. I will review the information in the CRM. I will not pick up the phone and call my salesperson. I will review it all in the CRM. Remember, I've got the notes, I've got the history, I've got all the documents, the diagram, the work order, the quote, before pictures. I have all those things that I need. I'll pick up the phone and I'll call Jane and I'll have a conversation with her. And lo and behold, I'll convert her right on the phone. Then I'll call my salesperson. I say, hey, since you used the lead management system, since you used the CRM, I was able to call this customer. I just closed this $9,000 sale for you. You just made $900 commission. And that's one of the other reasons this becomes important. Look, this is a two-way street. You expect a salesperson to change the way that they're doing business. They're going from pen and paper and maybe an Excel spreadsheet to a new system that's easier, but it's changed. And some people don't like change. Well, you got to expect the same thing from the management team. If you're doing what you're supposed to do as a salesperson, shouldn't I do what I'm supposed to be doing as a manager? And as a manager, it should be helping, reviewing, making sure that this thing's working as best it can. And ultimately, which is the salesperson's goal and my goal, is to close more deals so we both make more money. And then we utilize that information as we gather more and more. Imagine having 5 leads in the system, or a year from now when you process 5,000. Before we started using RLM, and then after we started, remember, I've been on it for a little over 2 years. So year number 1, we had a 36% increase year over year on sales. Now remember, we went from 1 year not using one, so pen, paper, manila folders, to completely digital, everything running through the CRM, a 36% increase in sales. Year 2, we had a 13% increase in sales. Now that's system against system, so we were up against the technology that we had used for a year. We're now in year 3, and we're currently up 22%. So the gains that you get from them are significantly higher than, I say, if you look at just regular industry growth, whatever that number is, 3%, 5%, whatever. We're getting double-digit increases. You can see on 2 of the 3 years that I've described, some of those increases are pretty massive. And you want to know what I attribute it to? We know every lead that we're working on, and nothing falls through. Where 2.5 years ago, to know what anyone was working on, I would have to go out and start talking to them. I was amazed. We work over 500 retail leads between my 3 retail stores in Columbus at all times. I think this morning I looked, we're working 547 leads. Now you tell me how you manage that with pen and paper. And as a manager and owner, how I possibly get my arms around that, going from desk to desk. Can't do it. You can with the right CRM tool.